You're listening to the Cash Podcast, creating affluence, success, and happiness with your financial surgeon, Adam Koós, President and Portfolio Manager at Libertas Wealth Management Group at libertaswealth.com.
All right, everyone, I'm here with the most important person in my life and my best friend and bride, Donna Koós, on this special Mother's Day edition of the Cash Podcast. And we're going to be talking about being a mom during the quarantine. So before we get started, as always, just a few housekeeping items. If this is your first time listening or watching, thanks for joining us. The Cash Podcast is produced weekly. And as stated in the intro, CASH stands for creating affluence, success, and happiness. And that's our mission. My hope is for you to learn a little bit more on each and every episode so that you become more successful, wealthier, happier, and more educated than you were before you started listening today. So come back often and feel free to subscribe on iTunes and YouTube. In addition, you can also follow me on Twitter at Adam Koós and on Instagram at Financial Surgeon. Last but not least, all links, visuals, charts, and other educational resources on our website at www.libertaswealth.com. So that's it with all the formalities. Let's go ahead and get started. So my bride, Donna, just a quick intro for her here. She went to Ohio State University, which is where we met, and she finished undergrad with a degree in behavioral psychology. Then she went on to grad school where she got her master's degree in counseling education. And then after graduating, she did some work as a clinical mental health counselor and then changed gears, working for both Franklin University and Columbus State Community College as an academic advisor. And in 2010, we had our first of two awesome little men in Karsten and Camden. And since then, she's been the chairman, president, and CEO of the Koós household, or as I like to call it, the Koós crib. And that's Koós with a K, or crib with a K, by the way. I have to make sure we mention that. So Donna, thank you for being such an incredible mother to our boys and for joining your husband today on the podcast.
Well, thank you. That was a walk down memory lane. It seems like ages ago. Thanks for having me. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. We have certainly been working hard recently, so I think we need to take some time for ourselves tomorrow to really relax and enjoy ourselves.
Maybe the whole weekend.
Do the whole weekend, yeah. Weekend would be a
maybe next weekend.
And next weekend. And then also, I want to recognize the teachers. Last week was Teacher Appreciation Week, and our teachers have done an amazing job supporting us moms at home while we are new teachers to our kids for the first time. And they've just done an amazing job. So thank you, especially to Miss Foster and to Miss Dancer at Bailey Elementary. We
got specific shout outs here. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. They deserve it. So, and happy birthday to Miss Foster. I'm sorry, Dancer.
All right. Well, let's jump into the questions here. So obviously you have a really unique perspective. I mean, that goes without saying, and I think there's a lot of people who have a unique perspective, a lot of moms out there whose lives have changed dramatically in the last couple of months. So how has the pandemic changed your family dynamic and personal life? Obviously, I'm at the office almost every day, so things are a little different for you, probably a lot different. So how have your routines changed? What's different?
Yeah, I think that just when this all first started happening, I think the routine, it's hard to even say routine because everything at the beginning when this all happened was just so chaotic and hard to figure out. And I think having two elementary kids school, a fourth grader and a kindergartner, it took some trial and error to kind of figure out what worked for us. And so my idea of what the routine would be like initially had kind of changed, and it's evolved over time to find out what works best for the kids and what works best for me. So these days, what our main goal is to kind of have a nice, easy start to the morning. The kids kind of relax, have breakfast, and then we pretty much get into homeschool right away. Our fourth graders, Karsten, is pretty amazing. He gets on to his Google Classroom right away on his own every morning and starts work. So he's able to kind of get started. He's had a lot of work with some computers lately, and he's gotten quite good at figuring out how to find things on his classroom website. But unfortunately, kindergarten, it's a tough age. So we have had to be with him the whole time to help him through that whole learning process and logging on. And at the beginning, it wasn't very easy. He wasn't the most willing student. It may have taken some bribery at first. to get him to do his work, to hold out on all the rewards such as iPad time and any kind of special treat or anything like that until after schoolwork was done. So it took a little bit of coaxing for him, and maybe a phone call or two from his teacher as well. So, but eventually he has kind of found a groove, and we've all kind of started to get into a routine and a rhythm over the last several weeks. And now we have about a week and a half left of school. So, so far for this year, but it's been challenging. So we try to get through all the school work before lunchtime starts. So that way we have the rest of the day to be able to, for me, get things done around the house and to cook dinner and to get those things done, make the phone calls that need to be made, and kind of have somewhat of a normal life schedule after that. The housework has definitely increased with the kids being home all the time. There's a lot of eating, a lot of meals, a lot of cleaning that is going on. They help out where they can, but
dishwasher stays out of breath.
There's a lot more dishes. That is for sure. Maybe a little less laundry. We may have had some pajama days for all of us. So that's been good. But yeah, the routine is a little bit tricky. Still trying to perfect that a little bit, but it's been good. We've tried to be flexible with it.
Well, speaking of teachers and teaching, I mean, what's been that experience, with the kids' teachers and, how they've supported online learning? What's that been like?
The teachers have been amazing. We found out, I believe it was March 13th, Friday, that the kids were that they were home. They weren't going back to school as far as we knew for quite a while of time. And so the teachers over that weekend and on that Monday and Tuesday, they worked together, and by Wednesday, the school classrooms were up on Google Class, and they were up and running at full capacity. They had lesson plans online, tons of resources. I mean, it was incredible how quickly they worked to get everything set up, and all the resources as well, just extra resources and things, and enrichment, and just as many online options that they could find. So that was initially when they first got things open, and it was just them scrambling to get everything up in the information. But since then, it's been really great because I think they've started to be able to incorporate more face-to-face, like doing Zoom calls, or we call it Google Meet, through their classrooms. So the kids can have some normalcy by being able to see their teacher and talk to some of their classmates. So it's been nice to be able to kind of keep some of that direct live face-to-face contact. But then they've also done a lot of video recordings as well, so that the kids can still hear their teachers presenting a lesson or reading a book. And I think that they've really done an incredible job. I don't think you could do a better job, than what they've done kind of prepping. And it's really just a matter of how receptive every individual kid is to learning at home, and how available we are to help them, what kind of resources they have at home. And then if a parent is working full-time at the same time, both parents working full-time from home. So it's just a matter of how much help can we give them, because those elementary kids, they don't necessarily know how to navigate the online
Right.
the online classroom as well. And so that's been, I think, challenging for the parents who are at home with elementary kids, age kids. And you're talking multiple grade levels too. It's not like you just have a classroom of fourth graders. You've got multiple kids of different ages and different content. And you may only have one computer, if you're lucky, that the kids have to share and pass around. So it's been challenging for sure.
Yeah. And there's no precedent either, right? I mean, it's not like there's a handbook for this.
No, I mean, they had like zero time to prepare for this. So huge thank you to the teachers. You've done an amazing job.
Yeah. Well, from 1 to 10, so let's flip the coin. From 1 to 10, how would you feel like the kids have handled all the changes over time? Do you see anxiety? I mean, are they kind of going with the flow, handling it well, not so much?
I think our kids have handled it really pretty remarkably well. They've adjusted pretty quickly. And from what I hear, that's the case with most kids that people are talking to. I think
Good.
The online schooling part is challenging, and I think that's across the board. I think all the kids have struggled a little bit with that online schooling, but at the same time, they're adapting pretty quickly, and especially hearing that they weren't going back at all for the remainder of this year. And so they weren't able to go back and say goodbye and close out the year with their friends and their teachers. And but I think they've really handled it in stride and done a pretty good job. Now, again, the kindergartner with the online learning, Camden, he struggled a little bit at first, but that's to be expected. I think especially K through 2 and even third grade students, those guys are just so young and it's so confusing and they don't really fully understand what's going on. And they just, don't have the experience and the maturity and the discipline yet to, do what the older kids are doing. And they're not used to it as much between technology and just in general, the school routine isn't fully established for them yet. So I think it was harder for the younger kids.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What would you say that this whole thing's taught you about yourself? The homeschooling, the quarantine. What have you learned about you?
Oh my goodness. That's, I've learned that I am more flexible than I thought I could be. I think I like to have a little bit of control and routine and rhythm. And then the unknown drives me crazy a lot of times, but I've really had to find a way to let that go. The unknown, not being able to plan and not being able to predict has been really tough. But I've realized what I need to do for me, and I give myself permission to take time out if I need something a certain day, if I'm, depending on what I need to do, if it's workout or just take 30 minutes of quiet time to myself, I've given myself permission to do those things. And I think that normally I'd be pretty hard on myself, but I've learned to give myself a little bit of grace and not worry about that as much, and to be flexible with myself, but also flexible with the kids, and just to be a little more laid back about how things are going for the most part, because it's a crazy time and there's not a lot of control. And so it's like you can only control the personal things that's going on in your life and what you're doing to cope with it. So just trying to be more flexible and open-minded and with things, and trying to focus on embracing the good things that do come from this, although sometimes it's tricky and it depends on the day. But yeah.
Well, speaking of, so school's going to be out in a couple weeks officially. Even homeschooling is going to be out. So now we're going to have what we hoped would be a normal summer, but it sounds like it's not going to be so normal after all. So how do you think this summer is going to be different than summers of the past?
Yeah, so it's a little bit different. I think early on when this started happening, I was holding out hope that things may be looking a little bit normal come summertime, but as things have progressed, it's very clear that they're not going to be a typical summer for us. First of all, there's still social distancing still. So it's like we're still having to be careful about who we interact with and really limit interactions with other people, and to kind of maintain that distance. So that's going to be a huge change from what we used to do in summers. And the other big thing is our kids used to do a lot of activities and sports and camps and things like that. And I got a ton of emails on Friday saying that a lot of the major camps that they were signed up for are closed. They're not holding them, or they're doing some kind of online version of them, which I appreciate their efforts, really adapting, and they're trying to adapt as well and trying to, get used to the face-to-face interaction being limited. So it's just going to be a little bit different summer. I think places that are doing online things are doing so the best they can. Like even with the kids' normal day-to-day activities like taekwondo, like they're doing Zoom meetings, and I hear of tons of friends whose kids do dance and they're doing all their classes online as well. But as far as the traditional camps go and running around and playing games all summer and wrestling and being with friends, in that close of an environment, like that's completely changed. And there's still a lot of unknowns though too. It's like, will the zoo even open?
Right.
Will pools even open? We haven't heard anything about that yet. And same thing with like Koós and just all the major places. And as you know, travel is still a big question mark as to whether or not people are allowed to go and travel and go on vacations and head to the beach like they normally would as soon as school lets out, and fly and is a whole other issue. So yeah, I think summer is going to look a little bit different. I think it's going to be a little bit slower of a pace though, which in some ways summer can go really fast. So
for sure,
thinking about spending more time, quality time with the kids and with family, obviously exercising caution, but just taking time to be together and do those things like going for bike rides and going for hikes and playing with the kids and board games and movie nights and things like that as well. So, but yeah, the structured activities and the various days of scheduling things is, that's not what the summer's going to look like.
Right. Yeah, obviously. Well, what about looking forward? What if we fast forward 3-4 months? I mean, how would you say parents are preparing for, I don't know, it seems like there's several possibilities of what could happen come fall.
Yeah. I was on a Zoom meeting with the superintendent from Dublin City Schools and just kind of listening in, wanted to kind of get an idea of what was going on. Schools are obviously, they have such a hard job right now because they have no idea what things are going to look like in fall, and they're having to prepare for every possible scenario as to what that might look like. How bad
No
is
handbook again, right?
Yeah, how bad is this virus going to be in fall? And really, they have no idea. So I know that DeWine has talked about different options, and City Schools is also looking into that, looking into the whole 2-day-a-week option where kids would alternate like Monday, Wednesday, and then the other half of the kids would go Tuesday, Thursday, just to kind of limit contact and reduce class sizes. And then, but with that, busing is a whole another issue because you can't really social distance on a bus that holds 75 to 80 kids.
Right.
I think during that conference call, they said that we could maybe get 14 to 16 kids on a bus, and that's it. And
Wow.
on a bus that normally holds 75 to 80, and that's just not really feasible. So I don't believe so anyway. I mean, if they figure something out, that's great, but there's just so many logistics that they have to look into that it's going to be really challenging for them to figure it out. For myself personally, I'm mentally preparing to ideally have them go to school 2 days a week, and I would drive them. And I'm hoping that's the worst case scenario. But then again, there's always that possibility where they have to stay home and do online learning again next year for part of the year. Or
It'd be so difficult. I
who
just can't even
knows?
imagine that.
I know, and it's especially tough for those people who are working from home full time, or not even from home. If your employer is expecting you at some point to go back to work, if your job's not able to be done
Right.
remotely, then childcare is a huge issue for especially those younger kids. For elementary age, they can't be home by themselves. So that's a big dilemma, and trying to figure out what to do with that. But then also, middle and high schoolers, home learning all year long. If no parents are around, that's also
That's a
like,
problem. Yeah.
it's also a problem. Yeah, I wouldn't feel comfortable with that, So I don't envy their position to have to figure this out. And yeah, so
Bottom line, they're just a
we'll
lot up
see
in the
how it
air.
goes.
We're just going to have to see what happens, I think, and hopefully, well, I think that everything will end up in the best regardless of what happens and what decisions are made. But
Yeah.
I mean, going back to the whole lifestyle change thing, what would you think might become permanent, once we finally do get back to a normal? People keep saying new normal. I feel like we will one day get back to a real normal, the old normal again someday. I don't know when that might be, but do you feel like any of the lifestyle changes, anything you've learned this past, call it 2 months, will result in permanent changes for you?
I think so. I think it just has shown me a little bit more to be more patient, to be a little bit more flexible with things, to enjoy the small moments in the everyday. And that's one big positive is I've had a lot of great time with the boys and had a lot of fun with them and just enjoyed their company, relaxing and not running around into a million different activities after school and things like that. So that has been a good thing. So it's something to definitely think about going in the future, about how active do we want to be, how many activities do we want them in, and to take time to just be at home together and have some more quality family time. We've always been good about that, but at the same time, we are definitely doers. So,
Yeah.
so I think that could
Rarely
be
bored.
one of the big changes. And then also, I think that we've stayed home a lot more as far as like we've eaten at home a lot more. I've cooked a ton more, which I like cooking, but sometimes our hectic lives don't allow for me to prep a more in-depth meal when we're off running to activities after school. So I think, cooking at home more and doing those types of things. So I don't see that we will go out as much even after this is over and things are back to normal. I think we'll kind of appreciate that time at home a little bit more than we were before. But,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
And 2 more questions. One is the opposite from the other, but what would you feel has been the biggest struggle so far, even as the stay-at-home order has started to become lifted, and people are starting kind of to feel maybe a little bit more comfortable leaving the house? What's been the biggest struggle?
Oh gosh. Biggest struggle is just trying to find that normalcy and that routine. I think that it's been, every day is different. And I think some days I handle it better than others. And I think sometimes curveballs are thrown, and sometimes it depends on if the kids are having a good day or bad day. That impacts things a lot. But then also just, trying to kind of create a new normal here at home and finding that routine and that rhythm. And that's taken time for sure. So
I think you kind of alluded to this already, but in case you want to piggyback on anything you've already said, what would you feel like's been the most rewarding part of this experience? Think cup half full here.
Mm-hmm. I think the most rewarding part of this experience has probably been the ability to kind of take a step back and to analyze life and how it's been going, and to kind of look at what's most important and where we spend our time, and the things that we do, and just valuing time with our family, and valuing our friendships as well, because I know I miss our friends like crazy, and our family, and our kids definitely do too. So it's really about the quality time with people, and with each other. And I think that's kind of been a good perspective. That's, it's like you always know that, but you're so busy in the day-to-day sometimes that you don't get to kind of sit back and look at that and kind of reflect a little bit on the things that are important and what you look forward to when you are able to kind of return to normal. What are you most looking forward to? So I think that that's been something I've thought about, and what those things will be for us.
Yeah. I think that in the past, it almost seemed like before you knew it, 2 months would go by, and it would feel like it was, everything just went by so fast. Before you know it, it'd be summer, and before you know it, it'd be almost Christmas again. Whereas now it kind of feels like 2 months go by, and I feel like it's been more like 6 months, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, I think that's, for me anyway, that's a good thing.
Yeah, it depends on the day.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But yeah, it is nice to kind of, in some ways, like take that time and slow down a little bit, and cherish this time that we have with each other and with our kids, and just kind of try to relax and enjoy it a little bit more.
For sure.
Slow down time. So yeah.
All right. Well, I think we'll just end with that today. But thank you again for jumping on camera and being a guest on this podcast. But more importantly, I love you, and happy Mother's Day weekend. So,
thank you. Love you.
All right, everyone. That's everything for the day. Well, we realize that there's thousands of podcasts out there, and you chose to listen to ours. So thank you so much for listening. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and YouTube. Feel free to share this podcast with your friends. And if you want more educational information, you can sign up at our website at libertaswealth.com to receive our screencasts, videos, and articles that we send out on a regular basis. Again, you can follow me on Twitter at Adam Koós and on Instagram at Financial Surgeon. So thank you so much again for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Cash Podcast with your financial surgeon, Adam Koós. To see any charts or images that were mentioned in this show, or to check out additional articles, videos, and other educational resources, head over to libertaswealth.com.